What the actual fork pot. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of What the Fork Pod. We are so excited. This episode today was with a dear friend of mine, Tony Castillo, and he shared, we had intentions of this episode that we just kind of went in a whole bunch of different directions. We got back to the main purpose of the episode to talk about his expertise in sports nutrition and supplements. But the episode started with him sharing some really powerful things for the first time about his own body image and nutrition journey, and really what brought him into the nutrition space that he's in right now. And it was really powerful to hear, as his friend and someone who knows him, all of these things for the first time that he shared with us. And we are so grateful for that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of comical in a sense that we, like, before we hit record, we're like, okay, so we're going to release this Super Bowl weekend, like sports nutrition. And then like 30 minutes in, I'm like, have you done a body image timeline? And it's like, I'm like, I feel bad. I feel like we took like a whole counseling route, but he was so vulnerable and so gracious with us. And just the fact that he felt comfortable to share with us. And I think it's going to help so many. It doesn't really matter your gender, but specifically men, because that's his audience and it's not talked about enough. So I think there's a lot of good things. And then the way that this episode ends is so different than the way it starts. And we're not going to give away much there.
Worth it to listen on.
Yeah, you really want to make sure you stay till the end because it gets wild.
And Tony, thank you for being, when you listen to this, thank you for being so open with us and for trusting us and allowing your story into this space, because it is going to help so many. And we talk about this a little bit in the episode, but eating disorders in men is now being talked about more on mainstream TV and on media, but still not enough. So thank you for helping us continue this conversation and just normalizing that human beings have feelings. I think that's really important, and that people's words matter. I think that's the big message from this episode as well.
Yep. So let's get into it.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of What the Actual Fork podcast, which still sounds so exciting to say, even though we're now in February, which is so fun for us. Anyways, we have one of my favorite humans here with us today, Mr. Tony Castillo, who is a brand new girl dad, which we're definitely going to talk about, in addition to a registered dietitian who I've known now for like 3 years, which is crazy to me how fast that time has flown. And I refer to Tony as my supplement guru. All of my clients know that if they ask me a supplement question, it goes to Tony Castillo first. Master at this, and that is why we have him here today to talk about his expertise. Plus, I feel like I'm discounting all the other things that you are. So can you give us a little rundown, Tony, before Sammy this or that's you, of who you are and what you do?
That's it. I'm just a supplement guru who's a dietitian
and a girl dad.
And that's it. Best intro ever. Like, now that I'm a dad, I'm so proud to be a girl dad, just learning so much. And one thing that we said we were going to bring up is just learning from both of you. So before even jumping on this podcast, I asked you both, because you're both amazing women who not only have to deal with diet culture, but gone through it and help a lot of women and educate them. I want to make sure as a dad that I can educate my daughter on some things that aren't diet related, right? Because with everything out there, and I asked you both, and Sammy said, I used to watch football with my dad and the Steelers, right? That was her thing. So now every Sunday I put on Amaya's little Dolphins jersey. We watch football together, and it's just an amazing time. And then Jenna said her dad made her stand in front of a mirror and say great things about herself and body positive things. So one thing I've done every day now for my daughters, I say, I love you, you're so pretty. And actually she's now started to smile when I say it. So she's starting to notice it. And one day I want someone that my daughter marries to say that to her. And because of what you've told me, I start to say it to my wife every day now, because I want her to see me as a role model and the way someone should treat her. That every day you should say you love her. And I love my wife. I think she's beautiful. It's just these small things when you don't know it and you don't notice it. Now that I'm a dad, I just say it because I want my daughter to feel that same kind of love.
So now that everyone's crying while they Oh, that was so good. But tell everybody a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so my journey into dietetics, I guess, and a little bit about me is that when I was younger, I was picked on because of my weight. I started to share this a little bit more, is that I had man boobs and I was very sheltered. I always wore like extra large shirts. There was pool parties growing up and I went to the beach living in Florida. I'd always wear shirts in and I'd be made fun of, and I just had a lot of body image issues. My family is Hispanic, and the Hispanic culture is very much picking on body positive issues. And my grandma would always say, oh, what, do you need to wear a bra? And even now to this day, I have a daughter, and she says to me, what, are you the one that's giving breast milk to your daughter? And it's still a thing to this day that I have to understand, experience, and handle, right? So that's what got me into nutrition, like having these body positive image issues, or not body positive image issues, just body image issues. And my grandma even telling me, learning that I was a dietitian, every time I go eat with her, she's like, oh, don't you need to eat your rabbit food? It's still a thing, right? Like eating fruits and vegetables. I'm glad she notices that I do that, right? But at the same point in time, that's kind of what started my whole diet culture, understanding nutrition thing. So middle school, high school, I played on the football team. I was a defensive lineman. I was weighing 250 up. I was weighing excess weights in my head, right? I was a big guy and I didn't know what I needed to do to change that because I was being made fun of because of those things. So I found a bodybuilder friend, gave me a meal plan, lost the weight, thought it was all great, groovy. Then college came and I fell into a binge drinking, binge eating cycle. I tried all the diets, all the supplements, had every friend everywhere say, try this supplement, it'll help you lose weight. Try this supplement, it'll help you gain muscle. I even tried skinny teas, even though they were put at women. I was like, if it's for women, it's got to work for guys too, right? Why can't I have skinny tea? So I tried everything and it just didn't work. Then eventually I got my master's in nutrition, which I'm so happy I did my internship, worked at the University of Florida. Then I went on to work with the Toronto Blue Jays as a dietitian. And I learned so much more about how food impacted me. And I learned how to break that body image issue I had growing up by looking how athletes ate to perform better, not to look better. And that really helped break it up for me. And now when I hear those comments from my grandma, they still hurt. It's not that they don't. I always say that, but I'm able to manage it better.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely be digging deeper into everything that you just said. But before we do that, I like how Jenna used it as a verb before Sammy this or that. So I guess I'm going to use it as a verb. We're going to this or that you right now. So some of these are, I guess we're recording right now in December, but this isn't being released right now. For those listening, it's February. But we have these questions in the holidays, and I still want to ask some of them. So are you more of a pumpkin spice or a chocolate peppermint kind of person?
Pumpkin spice all day. I'm basic.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Are you a crunchy or soft shell taco guy?
Ooh, soft shell.
Love it. Love it. Are you a guac or queso guy?
Guac. I don't know why. I just love avocados better.
That's a great ad.
Yes, love that one. We got to go back to one of our OG questions. Crunchy or smooth peanut butter?
Oh yeah, crunchy. I know you're smooth, but crunchy,
yes.
Jenna.
Yes,
I remember from the last one.
You're like, I remember.
It was a point of distinction for me to remember. Yes. I was like, oh wait, how do I answer this? Both? I don't want to get yelled at.
I know. Since we have Valentine's Day right around the corner, are you more of like a homemade sentimental gift guy, or are you a big fancy date night, like lavish date night kind of guy?
Definitely homemade. I want to make something that's going to last. Things that are big showcase last for the moment, but don't last forever. So I want to make something my wife will remember and my daughter, not just something for the moment.
I love that. And I think it's like the simple moments in life are always the things that we look back on. And, you know, anybody who's lost a loved one, like you look back and it's the simple moments, I think, that are so cherished and so beautiful. So I think that is amazing. All right, last question here. If you could have one thing in limitless quantities, but it can't be money for the rest of your life, what would it be and why?
Love, so I can give it to everyone and we can all enjoy each other's presence around each other, not be surrounded by so much negativity, right? That's just how I feel, because I see there's so much lack in compassion. And I think if we all just loved one another, loved ourselves, we could help each other be better humans.
Yeah. Again, the tears just keep flowing on this episode. Thank you for all of that. And I just want to go back before we go forward. You know, one thing that, so This Is Us, I watch that show. I don't know if you guys do, but previously, before they took like a little break because they're filming during COVID times, they just started talking about male eating disorders on a recent episode, and not saying that your history is eating disorder, but there's definitely some disordered eating patterns that were there. And I think that oftentimes the male audience is not spoken about or connected to the message that's shared oftentimes about disordered eating. And so just thank you for bringing light to the fact that the diet culture message impacts more than just women, which I think is now being more talked about. But on that episode, Kevin, the character, just like kind of shared about how his dad kind of pushed him to exercise when he was younger. He then became an actor and his body was all he had. And, you know, dieting and exercise to an extreme, and really the mental impacts of that for him were huge. And so thank you for bringing that up in your own story as well. Do you see that a lot in your practice?
Absolutely. A lot of guys, I work with a lot of males and then Hispanic males as well. They all resonate with that message because they all come up with that body image issues. And the thing is, with guys, we never tend to ask for help. We always think we can do it ourselves. And that's one thing I've noticed as well. Like a lot of these guys come in with, all right, I want to get like shredded and ripped. And it's like, hold on, let's have a real conversation. Is that what's going to make you happy? Like, what are you actually trying to do? And it's a whole disordered eating past that we see, right? Especially when we hear like, oh, I've been doing fasting. I had one guy come to me and be like, I only eat one meal a day. And I was like, why?
Great question.
Good. And he's like, well, I'm trying to perform better. And I'm like, so binge eating all at once is what you think is going to help you perform better all day. That doesn't really make sense. And I've tried fasting in the past when I was younger before getting a dietetics degree, and I learned that that's not what helped me. That's just disordered eating hiding itself in some other mask. Like, yes, there are some athletes I've worked with that practice religious reasons like Ramadan that they couldn't eat. So that makes 100% sense. If it's for religious reasons, we find a way, but it shouldn't be a lifestyle. And with the way I ate, and I was in a fraternity in college, and I just could see a lot of the guys I would be around had a lot of similar issues. And sometimes with guys, the body image issues, we hide it with drinking. A lot of guys do that, especially in college, right? We're just drinking, we're tailgating, like we don't even talk about those kind of things. And a lot of the shows we see now, we see guys with their shirts off, and now it's all different body types, but before it's just ripped guys. So that was like the male equivalent of like what you needed to look like. And that's why a lot of guys feel that pressure, but we don't share it, because if we share and we open up, it's vulnerable and it's scary.
Absolutely. And I think you had a huge point there of, you know, whether it's men, women, non-binary, you know, however people identify, that you think like, if I just get to this weight, if I just look this way, like everything's going to be like happy-go-lucky. I'm going to be loved. I'm going to be worthy. I'm going to be accepted. I think it was Caroline Dooner, the author of The Fuck It Diet, that said this, but I can't remember and I need to figure it out. But I saw a quote one time that someone said, you can't hate your way to happiness.
I love that quote.
And it's so valid when we're talking about body image, because body image has everything to do with our brain and nothing to do with our body. And so if we're just like hating, and even if we are losing weight in the process, or get to the smaller body, or get to the abs, or whatever it is, we look in the mirror and we don't just magically wake up and say, I love my body now. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
And so many, and I'm sure you guys can relate, so many clients that have, even if they've gotten to that magical goal weight or whatever the hell it was, they say it's not enough. And so did you experience any of that, Tony, or anything like that?
Absolutely. Like I would step on the scale multiple times a day to see what would happen. When I was at my lowest weight, I was doing clean eating, right? But
My
at
favorite
that same
term.
yeah.
Big heavy air quotes.
I was
heavy air quotes. And just to like be 100% open and honest, when I was in college, when I lost that weight, I remember, well, I don't remember because I was blacking out so much. I was drinking a lot. And one thing my friends, they would look back on, they're like, oh, how'd you lose so much weight in college? Oh, that's right, because you wouldn't eat anything and you just polish off a bottle of Makers. And I'm like, holy crap, like that's how I was remembered, because that's what I would do. And I would starve myself. And I'd wake up the next day like hungover, dehydrated, and go for a workout. And eventually that led me to break my foot. And I had never broken a bone in my life up until that point because I was underfueling, drinking, and just worried about how much I weighed. And when I played it off because I broke my foot at Halloween, I was dancing. I don't even remember it. Like I woke up the next day to go to the bathroom and I put my foot down. I was like, oh, that hurt. That's not what should feel like. And then I had to go to a hospital and I played it off. But then I was in my head, I just kept thinking to myself, oh my God, the scale's going to go up. Oh my God, all this progress I've done. What's going to happen to it? And wait, I've gained weight. I've lost weight. What's it look like? What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my body? Oh my God. Like all these things just came in because I was just so worried about it. And I didn't like the way I looked. And then breaking my foot didn't make it any better. I was like, how am I going to get into the gym and do like 2 hours of cardio, even if it's just walking? And the doctor's like, well, you shouldn't be walking. You shouldn't be doing anything. You should be resting. Right. And sometimes when the body needs rest, we do the exact opposite. And a lot of people I've worked with that are injured people, they come to me like, all right, I need to be on a calorie deficit. And I'm like, no, you need to nourish your body so it heals. You should not be trying to lose weight, especially if you're injured, right? Because now you're going to make that injury history just take longer to repair itself, if at all, in a good way. And that was tough for me to learn. That was tough for me to understand, right? Having that body image issue and hating the way I look, to be honest, because not that any of my friends were ripped, but I saw myself putting myself at a higher standard. And the way I would do it is by hiding behind alcohol. And then on the cheat days or cheat meals, so wake up, do the cardio, go drink all day the next day, just binge eat. And to be honest, I could eat like a whole pizza, a burrito, and a burger and not feel like anything because I would restrict myself so much and hated myself for it. And I'd miss out on so many memories with my friends that I could have just had wings. I was like, no, I got to have this container of food. Right? Instead of just being happy with the way I was and being happy around my friends, which is where I am now. Or if I want to go have a beer, I can go have, well, it's not because of COVID, but if I want to have a beer, I can have a beer, right? Like if I want to have a slice of pizza, I can have a pizza and not worry about it and not hate myself. Like I look at myself in the mirror now and I absolutely love myself because I know that I'm fueling myself for what I want to do and what I perform and the kind of activities I do. And I just feel happy with myself. And it's not about losing weight anymore. It's just about being happy with who I am and how am I performing.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I know it can be hard to talk about. Do you feel like it's hard for you to talk about still, or do you feel like because it's your life's work and what you're passionate about, like, is this your first time sharing this much detail, or are you just that good of a storyteller?
No way.
I'm like, I feel like this is like, you've rehearsed this. This is,
wow. This is definitely like the first time I've shared so much, and it's definitely difficult to share. And it's when you get on to talk with some beautiful ladies like yourself, it does help because you're both open and available and ready to listen, right? And it's tough being a guy hearing that. Like there's not a lot of guys that want to sit and talk. I was thinking about the other day, like if I talk to my guy friends, I'm like, oh, how's the team doing? Like we're talking about maybe a football game or something, and how's your day going? Awesome. All right, talk to you later. That's about it. It's not like, hey, what else is going on in your life? Because it's just tough. We aren't trained that way. We aren't taught that way. Even with my dad, it's like I love him. Sometimes we have heart to hearts, but it's very superficial conversations because it's just tough to dig under and understand and be open with each other.
Yeah. But I feel like it's people like you. I know Desi, we had on one of our previous that I know you guys are both really good friends with. Like you guys are absolutely like a rare gem of a male dietitian that understands how painful diet culture is. And I really thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for being so vulnerable, because we need more men in this space that are talking about this and breaking down barriers, so men feel okay to step forward and to talk about this.
Oh, now, and it scares the crap out of me, to be honest. Like, especially saying the word man boobs. I think I've said it 4 times already. Like, for me to say it that many times in a day, like, something's got to be going on, right? Like, I'm not triggered or anything by it, but it is emotional for me to say that because of what I went through and growing up with and being made fun of by classmates. I remember a moment in high school where I was put in a bathroom with 2 other dudes, and they were like poking fun at me, like poking my body. And I got into a physical altercation just to get out of it, right? Because that's how much I didn't enjoy being made fun of. Like, I pushed myself out and got out, right? Like, nothing happened. No one got like hurt or anything, but it did get physical. Like, we pushed each other, like, hey, get out the way. But that's just the way it is for guys. That's what we're taught, that it's okay to do that, right? Just boys being boys, as they say. And a lot happens that we keep to ourselves and we never really open up about.
Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
No.
Okay.
Hopefully,
so
if you don't ask me questions, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna, you know what? Hey, good talk, guys. I'll see you later. Appreciate you having me on.
I guess what I meant by that is to dig a little deeper into this. I'm so intrigued. Like, have you ever sought any type of body image therapist or counselor, or is all of the healing that you've done like self work?
So when I was younger, by younger I mean under 13, I did have a therapist. My parents got divorced. Both my parents have depression, and I was having thoughts about taking my life. I didn't know what was going on in my life, to be 100% open with you. And that therapist didn't really do it for me, right? So I never went again because that was the one experience I had and it was never good. Now I'm at a better place where I'd be way more than open to talking to someone, right? But what I learned was that interacting with some of the active individuals that I worked with, especially in the pro sports and with the collegiate sports, it helped heal me, because it really did shift my mind. It wasn't like, how many calories in the slice of pizza? It's like, all right, I'm having pizza. What's the effect of that on me, right? And that's really what helped heal my body image issues, is by seeing other guys go through it, but not as deep. Seeing other guys go through it and not worry about it. And it was like, how are they mastering this? Like, how are they doing this and I can't? What's the thing that's different? And it was literally just looking myself in the mirror and just being happy with it, right? And one of the first things I did when I started to start my journey in nutrition was I started working out. And the one thing I wanted to do was be like, what's his name? Terry Crews, the guy that can move his chest muscles. So I literally sat in the mirror after working out, no joke, in high school, just looking at my man boobs and being like, all right, if you can move them, it's muscle. If you can move them, it's muscle. That's it. And I remember the first time I did it and I was like, problem solved. But then I would go back later and be like, no, the problem's not really solved. That's just a Band-Aid on what you need to heal, like being happy with yourself. And it was more understanding that if I did, when I was at my lowest weight, I wasn't happy. So I knew it wasn't because of my lowest weight. If I had a 6-pack abs, it's not what's going to help me. And being a male dietitian, for me, I feel like when I first started my private practice, the only way I would get clients is if I had 6-pack abs. So honestly, I kind of got triggered when I first started my private practice again, because I thought, all right, all these people on Instagram, the only way they're getting clients is if they're shredded. And then I found out I can be myself, be happy with myself, and not go down that path again to please others, but to really please myself. And if I could be confident in myself, I can share my confidence with others.
That was very powerful. And before Sam asks her next question, I just have to say I relate to so much of what you're saying. I remember in one of my very dark days, I was having a really bad body image day. And I remember my husband, who we were fighting constantly at the time, saying to me, is your business based off of your body? And I'm like, of course not. Like, why would you say that? Like, I went to school for all of these years, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, then why, why are you doing this to yourself? Whatever, exercise, whatever I was doing at the time. And I said, I remember breaking down and saying like, but if I don't look like this, how will I get a client? And that was 5 years ago, maybe, like really not that long, maybe 4. Really in hindsight, it doesn't feel like yesterday, thank God. But like, it's not a lot of time. But I thank you for bringing that up and sharing that, because it's something that like I remember to this day, like, no, like that's not what this is about. But hearing your perspective on that as well is just, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you both for sharing that, because I think that's something so many dietitians can relate to. And I know even, being exclusively an intuitive eating dietitian, I get DMs all the time from RDs to be in larger bodies saying like, can you provide me with other dietitians that live in a larger body? Because I have so much shame going into this profession that like, I don't know if I can do it. And for anybody listening, there are multiple accounts and humans of all shapes and sizes that, are dietitians, but that's such a valid thought and fear. And it's so tough. And it's something that we need to continue to break down those barriers. But what I was thinking about when you were telling your story, and you too, Jenna, and Jenna, you may have done this going through Evelyn's certification with intuitive eating, but from a body image perspective, something I'll have clients do is, put your name in the middle of a piece of paper, draw a circle around it, and basically doing like a flow chart or a timeline of every single comment, statement, nonverbal cue that you have heard in your lifetime about your body or about bodies in general. So I basically call it like a body image timeline or flow chart. And I know you've been so open in sharing with us about like your grandmother, it sounds like was a very, influential piece in this body image timeline of yours. But to be able to branch off and say, grandma, mom, dad, coaches, siblings, exes, spouse, partners. I mean, it could be a rant, like those stupid little dweebs in gym class that were poking you, or whatever it is. And I'll do this with clients and they'll be like, Johnny Smith in 6th grade. And they're like, I don't even know what he's doing in life, but like, it so vividly sticks out to them because we were not brought into this world trying to change our body or hating our bodies. Our relationship with our body comes from those outside external influences. So I would be so intrigued to see like what your body image timeline looks like and what that brings up for you. And, but
I'll definitely do it. I love that because got it right here.
Love it. Love it.
Because I read through that with one of my clients and it was such a great book. So I always recommend it. So
yeah.
I'll
definitely try that activity out.
So many clients to Tony Castillo because I know you do that work and you also specialize, which we will get to in the sports as well.
I'm glad we're talking about supplements. Something happened. Must be the tea I'm drinking. I don't know. Sorry. Woo.
It's good. It's such a safe space and our audience will connect with this so much. And, I think that body image timeline, Sam, I have my client, Bree, Body Image with Bree taught me that in one of her supervisions that I took over the summer as a tool for clients. And I've done it. And there's a lot of things that come up for me that I'm like, oh, I only knew where this kid was now. But, the reality is that people don't recognize these comments as trauma. And I think the word trauma is really scary. I think when we had Sam, your therapist, Katie, on here, we talked about how trauma is a really scary word, but it can be just a statement from somebody that has this like lasting impact on you that you never really uncover, what that impact was until you allow yourself to feel whatever it makes you feel. And so I try not to use the word trauma. I think Janine, who we've also had on here, calls them like little T traumas because they're like little statements that can really have a lasting impact. But this once we can start to realize that body image comments and the way people act when we're much younger around our bodies, like it stays with us until we're ready to face it head on.
Yeah, absolutely. Deep Deep stuff. Didn't know we were getting into body image today. We threw a curveball at you, Tony. But I think
Speaking of curveballs, we'll bring it back to
yeah.
Well, just to
a
kind of end it all in a
Yeah.
sense, like even recently I did a talk for a therapist group that I work with people with depression, and the therapist that reached out to me to do the talk, he said to me recently, he knows I just had a daughter. He's like, man, your daughter isn't letting you eat. You look emaciated. And I was just like, in front of everyone, like right before I gave the talk, and I was like, thank you so much. All right, guys, so let's kind of jump into this talk, because it's like, thanks for commenting on how I look sick in front of people. I'm going to educate on nutrition and help them know that there's a link between like nutrition and depression and how some things can help. Like how, and it was a guy to guy in front of others, and how normalized it is to say that, right?
I think,
It's huge. It's verbiage, and like those even nonverbal cues, like is so big in the body image space. And yeah, it's never okay to comment on somebody's body. Like, well, let's just leave it at that.
Right.
And going into sports, I was always like, oh my God, I need to look a certain way. So not even private practice. When I was working in sports, like there's big linemen, there's wide receivers who are just pure muscle. And I was like, oh my God, how do I need to look like for them to believe me? Because if I don't look the part, how are they going to trust me to help them fuel? So it was always that in my head. And when I noticed that they didn't care what I looked like, but the information I provided was what was important, that is what mattered. I could look like an animal, let's say. I could be an animal, a little animal, and they don't care as long as I help them perform better.
I've been really watching a lot of Marvel movies, and whenever you say animal, I just picture Rocket from Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know why, but that's just what I picture.
So I'm a raccoon. All right, good.
Perfect.
And he's so funny. It's so good.
Eat carbs.
So moving into that sports space, I know that there are my dog is having a meltdown. I'm sorry if you heard that. I know that there are tons of questions that we get from people about what is worth it to take, if anything, and, what to look for in a supplement. Like I said, I think there are some supplements that could be great for certain people. I don't ever just blanket recommend them. I do use some myself. I will say that out loud. The omega-3s that I take are per Tony Castillo's recommendation. But besides that, like if you could share some tidbits about what to know about choosing a supplement, what would be like your top tip?
Well, I'm sure we all say this, you can't out supplement a bad diet. So making sure you eat food first. I'm all about a food first approach. I'm sure we all are on here. Going through my past, I've taken so many supplements. If we did a supplement talk, we could do a supplement a day, every day for a whole year. And there'd probably be a new supplement like every time. Be like, all right, let's talk about this today. And most of them are not worth it, right? And I'm working with a young athlete now, and he's a baseball player that wants to gain weight. And his dad has just been like, I want him on creatine. I want him on creatine. And I was like, well, first, let's look at his diet. Like, what is he eating? And he wasn't eating enough. And I'm like, we're just putting a Band-Aid over a bigger wound by just supplementing, right? We need to understand what it's for, what's it going to help him with, and how it's going to help his performance, not just supplement because we think it's going to help him with weight gain, right? So the first thing is you got to make sure you're eating enough. And then when it comes to supplements, there's 2 third-party certifications I always recommend, which is NSF for sport and then Informed Choice or Informed Sport. It changes name by whether you're within the United States or outside of the United States. So typically NSF certified for sport. So what they do, they make sure what's on the label is in the package and what's in the package has no banned substances. And a lot of people are like, so why does that matter? Like, why do I care if I get a banned substance? I'm not a professional athlete. I'm like, well, do you want to just, number one, throw your money down the drain? And the other thing is I was working with an athlete. He was working at a CrossFit gym. They were like, you got to take this pre-workout, man. You got to take this pre-workout. I had never heard of it. I'm like, send me a picture. First red flag, there was no third-party certification on it. Then I looked at the label, and there was actually something called SARMs, which is selective androgen receptor modulators. It messed with his hormones. It was actually like a testosterone booster. And it actually caused him to start gaining man boobs, dark path, reminder, right? And we had to put him on estrogen blockers because of how much testosterone was being produced from this supplement. So that's why I always make sure there are no banned substances, right? Like we don't want anyone taking anything. Number one, it's a waste of money, and it can also cause some hormonal issues inside of you. So we want to make sure it's third-party tested. And now a lot of supplements you may see in your grocery store, they say third party on it, but that's just eyewash, for lack of better wording, or bullshit, right? We can say that.
Yes,
like, it's not, it's not going to do anything because they just pay someone to do it, and it's not like a company you can trust. Most supplements get their supplements from China already. And I wish I could share pictures, but you could see like old rotting pots, vats. You see like cockroaches and ants in these supplements because they don't take care of it and they don't care. And if it's third party verified, they verify it once it comes here. But if a supplement has this NSF certification, they make sure it clears all tests of time. And that's why I only trust those supplement labels, because they pay for this. And a lot of supplements companies don't want to pay for that extra label because the average consumer doesn't know. But a lot of people are getting cockroach arms and legs and wings in their supplements. Yeah. If I were to show you the pictures, you'd be like, ew. Because if we go to, like, let's say like a whey protein powder, it comes from milk. It has sugar. What do insects love? Sugar. So they're just all like, I have pictures of like supplement labs in China that's like full, not just China. I'm sure there's some in the United States, not to any country, but they have like cockroaches and ants and stuff on them, and they don't care because they're just selling it to us, and no one really regulates that.
And nobody cares what they put in their body when it comes to supplements. It's
Yes.
insane.
So let's ask. Now I'm like intrigued. I'm like, I need to take more notes. So this omega this omega-3 brand that you recommend to Jenna, or just like multivitamins in general for like average consumers that maybe not be an athlete, what are like some safe brands? And for anyone listening, this is not sponsored. So
But
what
it can
are
be if you are listening?
yeah, but it can be. Yeah. We'll send it to those brands.
Send the check. Send the check. The two brands for fish oils are Nordic Naturals and then
Okay.
Clean with a K are the two I typically recommend. Those are the two I really love for fish oils. And if you're someone who is vegan, then Brain Armor is the one that uses algae, and it has a good. So what you look for in a fish oil is EPA and DHA. And you want it to be as close as possible to total omegas. And what happens is when you go into your local pharmacy, so CVS, Walgreens, Rite Aid, whatever you use, and I used to buy them when they were on sale, right? Like 2 for $20. It's like, oh, great. I heard they're healthy. I heard they're good for you. But let's say like the EPA and DHA add up to 200, but the total omega-3s are 1,000. That means there's 800, which is just filler product. And I'm sure now you guys see in the grocery store, there's like omega-6s, omega-9s, and all these marketing tools. It's like, that's not going to help you, right? That's just buzzwords that diet culture wants us to fall into, to think like, oh, I need more omega-6s. I need more omega-9s, but we don't really understand what those are, but we need more. So always making sure that the DHA and EPA are as close as possible to that total omega-3. That's like the number one tip. The other thing is that you want it to be in I'm not going to show this because it doesn't matter, but like in a dark container. You don't want it to be in a see-through because the light gets in and it makes it rancid, and that's what causes fish burps. So fish burps are typically only 2 reasons. One, you don't have it in a container that's see-through, so you want it to be opaque or not see-through in order for it to not get rancid by the light, or you store it in a hot place. The reason I say that, living in Florida, I had someone store it, not on purpose. I told them to buy fish oils. They bought it. They were storing it in their car. And they were taking it because Florida gets very hot. They would get hot and melted, and they'd get fish burps. And they're like, Tony, why do I keep getting fish burps? I'm like, where are you keeping it? They're like, in the dash of my car. And I'm like, dude, it's July in Florida. It's like 154,000 degrees. Why would we? So now I'm very specific to keep it in a cool place. So
and they don't taste like fish, the Nordic Naturals. I take the prenatal DHA from them, and it tastes like lemon.
Yes, everyone. I had an athlete who was super scared to take fish oil. I was like, no way, Tony, I'm gonna get fish burps. And he actually like bites into them and sucks them. He likes the lemon flavor so much. Like, I was like, that's a weird way to take it. I mean, I'm not gonna yuck your yum, but more power to you, dude. Like, hey, he's like, yo, these are great. Like, okay, I'm not
like
gonna hate
candy.
Yeah.
And on this topic though, because I do think that fish oil is a supplement that I actually do recommend to quite a few clients, because I don't feel like people eat enough fish, especially clients that I work with either don't want to cook, which I totally get. Like, you don't want to cook it in your house, or you just don't like it. And so for active individuals as well, I know it's super important, but who needs fish oil?
I
mean, you can't say like specifics, but, but
I would recommend it to most populations because we don't get enough fish, like you said. And it really does help with brain health. There's a lot of research on that. Also with joint health.
Inflammation too, right? For
Inflammation.
fitness.
That's the big word, right?
Big buzzword.
Yeah.
But it's real. It's a real
Yeah.
thing. We can talk about it from a real perspective, not from gluten and dairy.
And the reason is because we have what's called an omega index. So we have in our bodies omega-6s and omega-3s. And the one we hear is that omega-6s are inflammatory. But it's actually okay to have some inflammation. And this is where people get a big challenge, because I had an athlete who ate fish for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they were taking fish oil supplements on top of that. And what happens is that they were having so much omega-3s that they messed up that balance, that they actually started to get a nosebleed because of how anti-inflamed they were. And the way to stop it, no joke, opened up a bag of chips and had them eat chips. And it stopped it immediately, because those omega-6s help stop that anti-inflammatory pathway. So you do need omega-6s and omega-3s. You want a good balance of it, right? Because the other side of the coin is omega-6s, which is metabolic syndrome, which is a whole slew of type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, that whole slew of medical challenges. So again, it's a balance of both. It's never just one side or the other.
See, nutrition is really cool. Like, there's a lot of really cool things.
Yes, when there's no shame and guilt attached,
Right.
it's awesome. But 99.9% of the people, unfortunately, can't get to this stage without.
Yeah.
But yes, it's so cool. So I want to, and this is like all selfish questions, I'm sorry. So we got Nordic Naturals for the omegas. Do you recommend that for the multivitamin as well, or is there another brand, or is that the clean one you were talking about?
So for multivitamins, I would recommend people just eating food.
Yep.
There's very few people I put on multivitamins. Like,
Got it.
only if you're a woman who's pregnant, prenatals, obviously 100% on that, preach on that. But for the average person, you probably don't need multivitamins. And I have close relationship with supplement companies, and they always say, like, you need to like push multivitamins. I'm like, I'm not going to. I don't take them. I don't recommend them for my clients, and I just don't really see the validity for them unless they have a vitamin deficiency of sorts, right? Or a mineral deficiency like iron or vitamin D are the two big ones that I typically see. But for taking a multivitamin, just eat your fruits and vegetables, folks. Right?
Love that.
I get this question a lot whenever I put up a question box. What do you think about greens powders? I knew that was the answer, but I think I tagged you in my response this week that I was going to ask you this question. But I mean, companies are going buck wild with them. And I think it's just obviously diet culture and trappy, but you know, none of them are NSF certified, which is always my go-to, thanks to you. But what do you think of them, Tony? Because no one can see your face right now.
So greens powders, I've only started someone on a greens powder because they absolutely hated fruits and vegetables. So if I can get them to start that way, to start understanding that taste and get used to it, then I'll start them with that, but I try to take it away. It's not something I want someone on forever. I don't find them effective. I rather them eat real fruits and vegetables. And a prime example, when I worked with the Blue Jays, being that I'm Dominican, I knew Dominican baseball players, I brought in Dominican food. And the one thing I told the players is like, you have to put a vegetable on your plate. The only way you get this food. And they're like, no way, you can't control that. And I'm like, I mean, I'm the guy that brings the food, so I'm pretty sure I can. And they're like, all right, then I'm not going to eat. And I was like, okay. And then they were like, no, I'm going to eat. I'm like, okay, just put a vegetable. They literally got the smallest piece of carrot that you could find. Like, you literally could get tweezers and put it on the plate. But they ate a vegetable, you know? And that, for me, was a win, right? So green powder have a place if you're really someone who hates vegetables, but I'd rather you, like, put spinach in it, put carrots, something, if you make a smoothie of sort, not for weight loss, weight gain, or for anything, just to have your vegetables, if that's the way you like them. It's more just having vegetables, right? So you can have it, but if you can eat fruits and vegetables, go that route. If not, you're just throwing your money away. There's no research behind green powder saying, like, it's God's gift to earth. Great job.
I'm pretty sure that's the marketing on it, though.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we have to get to the $1 million question. I honestly forget what supplement it is, but I know it's like your funnest fact that you throw out.
Oh.
What's in branched chain amino acids, Tony?
Yes, go ahead.
BCAAs, one of my favorites to talk about. I used to take them like all the time.
Same.
I didn't understand what they were for. I just heard that they're going to help you get ripped. You need to take them if you want to get ripped. And I was like, no, this is not the key. They are made from bird feathers, which I don't know about you, but I would not pluck a bird to grind it down their feathers and drink it. No one wants to drink bird feathers.
I did for so long until you told me that.
Yeah, most companies use bird feathers to make BCAAs or branched chain amino acids, and I think that's kind of gross.
It's so gross. Can I also just tell you that this just made me think of a time when I lived in Hoboken. I probably knew Sam at this time. And there was this like little supplement shop on the corner. And I went in and they were having like this sale and they sold me, because I was like super diet culture Jenna at the time. And they sold me this like women's supplement that was supposed to be like an energy, whatever it was. And I remember taking it. My husband and I were not married yet. We were living together. And I remember taking it and it had a ton of B6 in it.
Mm-hmm.
Or niacin. It had a ton of, is that the same thing? It might be. It had a ton of niacin in it. And I got the niacin flush.
Oh,
So I took from my hairline down to my toes, I was bright red, itchy, burning. Matt had to take a towel from like the bathroom, got it like it's cold water, wrapped me in this cold water towel, put a towel on my face. I thought I was having an allergic reaction. It wouldn't stop. I was hysterically crying. I marched my ass down to the place as soon as it went away and like put it in their face. And I was like, what the fuck did you just sell me? Like I had a reaction to it. They're like, that's the niacin flush. That's your pump before your workout. And I was like, there should be a warning on this product. Like, what do you mean? Like who can work out when like they can't I couldn't move my fingers because they were so swollen. Like it was the most terrifying experience of my entire life.
That sounds like a great workout, said no one.
Can't believe my husband married me after. Terrifying. Have you ever heard of that before?
A niacin flush, yes. And then I've also seen, there's something called beta alanine, and that's what gives you like the tingly feeling. I had an athlete, because the strength coach said, you got to take this before a workout. He had never taken beta alanine in his life. He took 2 scoops of it, and he thought he was having an allergic reaction. I literally had to calm him down because he's like, oh my God, I'm having an allergic reaction. What happened? What did I take? And I'm like, it's just the beta alanine. He's like, when's it going to go away? And it took like an hour and a half for that feeling to go away. And it was so uncomfortable for him, he couldn't work out. So that's the other thing with supplements. You really need to know what you're putting in your body, because it could cause a niacin flush, could cause you to think you're having an allergic reaction. It's not a comfortable feeling for anyone, regardless if you're trying to get a workout in or just go about your day. And again, that's why we want to make sure the supplements you get don't have any banned supplements, because they could have some banned substances in there that could cause these adverse effects.
Yeah. Another one I want to bring up, because I know it's like probably the most popular supplement right now, and I remember you dropping knowledge bombs about this previously, is collagen.
Collagen. I was like looking, I was like, all right, what do I need to look at first? So collagen, a lot of people are taking it for like hair, nail, and skin. The research on that is inconclusive, in a sense that it's not a yes, it's not a no, but I wouldn't recommend it for anyone because you're probably not getting enough from a supplement, because most of these pills, so the amount you actually need is about 15 grams, and most pills only contain 1 gram, so you'd have to take 15 pills to get an effective dosage. And this is, I mean, crazy. And you'd also want to make sure it has vitamin C to get absorbed. The only thing it has shown to help is with joints, tendons, and ligaments. So for people that are active, so like think about basketball or hip movements, like a lot of jumping movements, it will help with those. Or if you're repaired from like a ACL, Tommy John, for those that know that, that will help 15 grams a day with vitamin C. However, hair, nail, and skin, not at the moment, right? Because it's our most abundant protein. It's 90% of our body. However, we can get it from food. You can get it just by having enough protein in your diet. So again, going food first and then adding the supplement as that next level, but it's not the first thing you need to look at.
I always tell my clients too, it's not 100% absorbable, because I think you guys know by now, like I take collagen, I like it because it doesn't taste like anything. And, you know, for me, it was just it's been an easy way to add protein, but I always tell my clients, like, it's not 100% absorbable. So even when you're having it, you should be having it with another source of protein. Am I saying that right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And a lot of people take it like as a recovery for post-workout, but they should not, because the amino acid profile doesn't make a full protein. So it's not a good recovery protein. That's why the effectiveness has actually been shown if you take it an hour before workouts. So that's the other thing. Like, you can't just take it and hope it works. Like, it should be an hour before workouts, not after.
Super helpful. Now this one is technically not a supplement, but I
Even
saw
better.
this on TikTok and it just got me. So
Oh
I don't know if
God,
you
I've
guys
been waiting for
already
this.
seen it. So, do you guys know where vanilla flavor comes from?
It's so gross. I looked it up because I saw it too.
Okay,
I made my
so-
mom do it. Have you, Tony?
So, Tony, do you have your phone with you right now?
No, I don't. I left. My wife has it.
Well, you're on your computer, though,
Oh, yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
go ahead and pull up the good old interweb
Okay.
and
Good old
go on Google and Google where does vanilla flavor come from?
Vanilla. Oh, look at that. Came right up. Let's see.
You go ahead and read it for us.
Vanilla comes from the pod of a tropical. That's probably not what you want me to read, huh?
No, that's
Does
extract.
vanilla come
We're
from
talking
beaver?
about flavor. Yes.
That one.
From beaver. From
From
the anal glands of a beaver. Perfect. So if you're a big Cardi B or Nicki Minaj fan, if you're an ass eater, then perfect. You can have as much vanilla as you want, right?
Yep.
Do the groceries, right? Eat the booties like groceries if you're a big vanilla fan. Now, if you go into someone's house, they have a lot of vanilla. You know what they like to do? For anal glands. That's it.
Like, how is that real? And then somebody asked me the other day, they were like, so is it not vegan? And I was like, I guess not. Like,
I think I saw Claire Tuning posted her reaction, like when she Googled it, like her face. And because of course we all know the vanilla bean and vanilla extract and like natural vanilla, but I guess from like vanilla flavoring. So she was saying like, I don't know if it was her or someone else was saying like their favorite Christmas drink is ruined with like the vanilla flavoring.
Well,
But I'm like, yeah, who's sitting there being like, I'm going to go dig up an anal cavity of a beaver and see if this tastes good.
it's
that's what I was thinking about. Who's the first person to be like, hey, you know what I want to do? It's Friday night. Things are getting a little bit weird.
crazy.
You guys want to go eat beaver butt?
And the
You know what? Not really, Jack. You know what? You go tell us, and we'll kind of sit here around the
come
campfire.
back to you.
Yeah.
I think the other like crazy thing though, I mean, this could be a whole nother episode because I know we're winding down here, but
Beaver
like
butt.
natural flavors, like we don't know what that means, right?
No.
Clearly, we don't know what that means.
Because that's technically natural. Like, let's be honest, right?
As natural as it comes.
Straight from the source.
Yes. Yes.
Well, Tony, we took this episode from body image to male vulnerability to supplements to beaver asses. And thank you for being a sport throughout the entire time. If there is one thing that you could leave our audience with, besides where to find you, because that needs to come next, what would it be?
Hydrate or dehydrate?
Yes.
No.
Yes, that's your line.
Be nice to one another. Show love. That's all.
That's a good one. And now tell everyone where they can stalk you and find you.
At coach_Tony Castillo or at nutritionfp, which stands for performance.com. Those are the two places you can typically find me, or on the comment threads of Sammy or Jenna's pages. Even though Sammy won't respond to them, I'm going to make a post and I'm going to tag, hey, this is just for Sammy. My wife's going to be like, why are you tagging another woman in a post? I'm going to be like, I'm seeing if she comments back.
I'm not good. I set my social media boundaries are firm.
She's
But
really crushing those. 2021 intention.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tony.
Thank you guys for having me.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of What the Actual Fork Pod. We know there are a lot of pods out there, and we are so grateful that you are here listening with us. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe, like, share with all your friends and faves, and follow along with us on social at What the Actual Fork Pod. We promise to continue to bring you the hottest topics, greatest guests, and the most fun you can possibly have while fighting diet culture bullshit. We love you, we appreciate you, and we will see you next week for a lot more fun.